Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, presented by Park University. Well, yesterday wasn't a vintage day for Patrick Mahomes. For only the third time, he didn't throw a touchdown pass in a game that he played in. But he is always capable of something special. And what he was capable of accomplishing that was special yesterday was to save the football weekend, not only for his Kansas City Chiefs, but for all area football fans. A disastrous Saturday for the Sunflower State Big 12 teams had left it all up to the Chiefs to put smiles on the faces of football fans throughout the area. And it looked like, with a 4th and 8 and about a minute to go, that maybe it was going to be frowns all around. But, of course, he did it, and he accomplished his first under 2-minute touchdown winning drive. He had tied a game last year against Baltimore, and with it, he provided a Monday morning where people felt a little bit better about the football weekend. A football weekend that we'll talk about with Stan Weber coming up next. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And there was plenty of all of that coming up next.
Before you spend your time and money going after an MBA, ask yourself why. Is it so you can tell people you got your MBA? So you can add a line to your CV? So you can call it a CV instead of a resume? Truth is, any MBA will do that. On the other hand, if your goal is to learn how to successfully manage and grow a business with real-world insights from experienced professionals, well, consider getting your MBA from Park University. Our low student-to-teacher ratio gives you personalized attention. And our face-to-face and online classes offered in 8-week terms are designed with working professionals like you in mind. No wonder the Kansas City Business Journal ranks Park University as the top MBA program in the area. Classes begin June 10th at all 4 KC area locations: Parkville, Downtown, Independence, and Lenexa. Visit park.edu to get started.
I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next.
There's no need to get a case of the Mondays every week, not during football season anyway. Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery, and we are the place for Monday Night Football. Food and drink specials every week, and all new televisions always at 23rd Street Brewery. The hardest thing about Mondays now will be getting through the workday, although waking up on Tuesdays might be a little bit tough. But remember, watch all the Chiefs games, NFL games, every game at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Stan, we certainly had a weekend that could have been an absolute unmitigated disaster, but Patrick Mahomes is always there to save the day in all regards. He buys the groceries for the people he wrecks their grills with and everything else. And, this, you set a certain standard, and then you sort of have to live up to it. And on a day where he threw for over 300 yards and, they put up 27 offensive points, it was seen as kind of a lackluster game. They did turn the ball over and everything, but when push came to shove, with more than 2 minutes to go, I was certain they were at least going to get a field goal. And then I thought they would get a touchdown, but then again, they did have to convert a 4th down and 8, and the game, that's one play and the game can end. But when you've got the magic guy, generally he makes the play that can win the game and doesn't throw the ball in the dirt, and you lose.
When you put your nervous meter on, I'd love to have seen everybody around the country who are Chiefs fans and say, how did you feel when you had 4th down and 4th and 8 in your own territory on that last drive? And I just think it's amazing that people weren't as nervous as they should be. It's 4th down, and if you don't convert, you lose the game. It's one play, one lucky play even by Detroit. And there's Patrick just scrambling up the middle like no big deal, not sliding too early, running way past the 1st down marker and using the lion like it's third base or something, and slides in. And fourth down's converted, and you never thought you'd see fourth down again, and here we go, right. Chiefs. So it was amazing. Now, there were times last year the Chiefs lost close games, and Patrick didn't drive him down. So it's not as if it's happened every time. It's hard to remember when anything's gone wrong, but it's a good feather in the cap on a day where the game was put in a situation with crazy fumbles in the third quarter and lack of consistency here and there, I guess, that the Chiefs made winning plays. The fact is they made winning plays down the stretch. Guys like Byron Pringle make a big catch, getting hit inside the 5. It's
how'd he hold on to the ball?
Yeah, just amazing to see guys like that. And the tight end early in the game, who'd been a good preseason player, comes back and makes a couple of nice catches. So Andy Reid draws him up. Patrick Mahomes is so indifferent. Who's open, I'll throw it to him, and that makes your offense even better.
When you watch that fourth down play, is there any chance that wasn't, I don't think it was a called run, but were they running patterns that might lend itself to the middle of the field being open? Did you notice anything like that? It just looked so easy, and he didn't take very long to decide.
Well, it's like reading routes and coverages. It's easy to tell when he hit his back step of his foot that it was man-to-man. And when you see it's true man-to-man and you got to understand what your guys are doing. Are any of the 5 eligible receivers staying in and blocking, which means there's somebody free lurking around who might come into the play that's not rushing you right now, almost like a spy. But when you know you're sending 5 guys out and you know where they're going and suddenly you recognize without a doubt this is man-to-man, then you know the run is available. It's just a matter of do the 4 defensive linemen coming toward you give you a gap. And as soon as they gave him an opening, then he said, this is easy. It becomes a running play. So it's not a call at all. It's not a plan. But he knew as soon as he hit probably his third step, okay, I got man-to-man. I'm going to sit, and then when it opened up in front of him, why do anything more? He knows the guys are running away because when you're playing man-to-man in the NFL and Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback, they're not going to trick you and turn around and leave a guy open and come back after you. So it's just a good, smart play, made it look easy because of knowledge under pressure. He read it, knew what he had, but that's how you get an opening. And man-to-man coverage is what allows you to get the easy run up the middle.
They ran it in, and the fact that they ran touchdowns in meant that he didn't throw a touchdown pass, which is highly unusual, to say the least. I want to ask you this. I don't remember, I think we've talked about this before on College Game Day or whatever. I don't remember because I'm old enough to remember when you weren't allowed to push the offensive player into the end zone. I don't know when that changed, but I think it should change back. I think it's completely unfair to the defense to allow the offensive lineman to just shove somebody into the end zone. I don't get it. They basically stopped him, and then Ryder just blasted his own player into the end zone. Do you remember when it changed, and what's your feeling about it in general?
I think it's generally sometime in the last 5 years.
I think so, too.
And college and the pros have both started allowing it. But it used to be a guy blocking who would come up, from behind, accidentally running into his running back would be called for a penalty. And then it's one of those, well, that wasn't his intent, but they just still threw the flag. I do think it's interesting because we are seeing rugby type of scrum occurring, and it goes one direction. It always goes with those big offensive linemen pushing. I see times where a guy stopped and has 1 yard, and then it'll be 11-yard gain. They'll push him 10 yards with the momentum. So, I'm not in favor of it. I don't like ticky-tack rules that keep them from just playing football, but this is one where I do think it's gone too far. I mean, now the players are smart. Coaches teach them. If you see your running back standing up, go ahead and get behind him, push the wall forward.
I mean, Mahomes was pushing him, too.
So, think about this. USC had the Bush push was a touchdown against Notre Dame. That was the rules not allowing pushing, and he pushed the USC player over in Notre Dame to the right side end zone. I can remember watching it on TV from the press box, and there was a lot of controversy because Notre Dame fans are going, that was illegal.
Right.
So, it was not that long ago that we've changed that rule.
One of my least favorite phrases in football, and this is another thing to run by you as we get a little philosophical here as the Chiefs win another game, not like we're not going to break it down a little bit more, is takeaways. To me, just call them turnovers, all right? And if not, with all the analytics we have now and these people who break down everything, why doesn't just somebody come up with a thing where they say that one was a giveaway and that one was a takeaway? Because not all takeaways are created equal, but defensively, we took the ball away 3 times. So they may have for instance, And Matthew Stafford just dropped the ball. I mean, now he was pressured a little bit, but in the end, he just dropped the ball on the ground. And you're going to call that a takeaway? You did something special? The fumble was probably created, but you couldn't tell. I don't know, the one in the goal end zone. I just don't like it. I think it's a free pass for defensive, and I guess I'm thinking about it in the context of the Chiefs because I think they were graded better yesterday because Detroit turned the ball over a couple times after the Chiefs had, and they still gave up 6 yards a carry and all that stuff. What's your thought in general of my thought?
Well, what comes to mind as opposed to answering your question of what do I think about it, it reminds me of baseball where to keep track of pitchers' ERAs, they talk about if that's a hit or an error, and so you can hit unearned runs versus earned runs, and so with the analytics we're going to right now, splitting the hair further and further and further is fine. I think we will probably 10 years from now we'll have a whole 3 different categories of what happened. Fumbles lost means something, or fumbles gained will mean something completely different, and start grading like we're looking at targets now. Who thought about targets? And suddenly they're saying there are 10 targets, 8 receptions with receivers, and so I think it's fine with me if we go into deeper detail. It's just who gets to make the call. Is it Elias or is it Pro Football Focus? Or
right. For instance,
we're going to have an official scorer.
If Byron Pringle had fumbled the football, I'm perfectly willing to call that a takeaway because they clobbered him twice.
Yeah.
So that would have been fine by me. But anyway, just a little sidebar. That sort of lends itself into the next part of the context. We know the Chiefs' offense, even on a mediocre day by their standards, is good for 24 to 27 points. They're going to do their job. But the defense just, I think that we're trying to create a scenario where people say it's a little better. And I know you thought that early in the season the tackling was a little crisper. But man, anybody runs on them. The Lions hadn't even been running very well. And they just consistently, down after down, could run the football. To their credit, they actually did stick with it quite a bit, even in a – but the part of the game was always a one-score game. That's the thing. The Chiefs usually create some separation, and then the team stop running the football. Is this going to be an issue, or is the pass so prevalent in football and the Chiefs' offense is so good that it's just not going to matter?
Well, you've asked a lot of questions and a lot of things to touch on. I don't know which order to go, but I'll start with this because you mentioned it. We spoke last week about the game plan that gives you a chance to beat the Chiefs. We spoke about it here, and then I was on the Border Patrol. Probably I broke it down a little bit better with those guys on Sports Radio 810 WHB last Friday morning about how coordinators just refuse to run the ball. I mean, if you take the the early 70s teams and had them coach, the Chiefs would not like it at all because they would run 3 times in a row, get a first down, and run again until you stop them. And we just kept saying the offensive coordinators now just refuse to do that. The Ravens are a dangerous team, I think, in a one-game scenario because they have the potential to run the football, do things unusual, and upset. It truly would be an upset to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. And that's what we're really looking at is a 2-game playoff to get to the Super Bowl. One of them is going to be the New England Patriots. We got to answer the question who's going to be at home. But other than that, it's who's going to play who in that game to get to New England. And I do not want to play the Ravens. Well, the one thing we saw, and we talked about Matt Patricia, would he get good information from Bill Belichick, et cetera? No one has stuck to a game plan better than the Detroit Lions in all the games that Patrick Mahomes has had to play against, other than maybe the AFC Championship game last year. Detroit just said, we're going to keep running. And guess what happens? It's what I've been saying all along. I think I told Nate and Steven, I would tell my coach, we're going to run 2 times to every pass, period. I don't care what the score is. It's our only chance to win. And Detroit did it. And what did it look like, Danny? You can talk about the things that Patrick Mahomes didn't do. He didn't play poorly, didn't throw an interception. And what did the Chiefs really do wrong on offense?
Fumbled twice.
Yeah, but
fumbled 3 times.
There were some fumbles, but in general, the Chiefs were fine. What hurt them was the coordinatorship and the strategy that the Lions were willing to stick with and ran the ball. And guess what? Success and time and all of that. So there is the formula. I don't know if anybody's really going to stick to it. Maybe there's a blueprint, but you want to play a close game against the Chiefs, you're probably going to lose, but at least you have a chance if you attack it like Detroit. Sometimes you've got to see it happen on tape, on film, whatever you want to call it, before you'll do it. That was the blueprint right there. The Ravens didn't even execute it when they played the Chiefs. They threw the ball, 43 times with Lamar Jackson? That's not going to work.
Right.
Detroit did a nice job. They made the Chiefs be put in a challenging position. That is real, Danny. It's going to happen. Yes, the defense is a concern. Now, if you want to turn to the positive, and it really isn't anything to do with that goal line stand, the 100-yard interception return. That was an overturn that probably shouldn't have been overturned. The score is 13-13. Detroit should have had a touchdown. It's 20-13, kicking the ball off to the Chiefs. Instead, they get a touchdown overturned by replay and then lose the ball to the Chiefs. And they got down there 2 times and ended up with a fumble lost and then a 100-yard return fumble when they were inches from the goal line. The Chiefs should have been behind by 14 points, 9 minutes left in the third quarter. And not that the Chiefs wouldn't have come back, but again, Detroit had a very good formula. The Chiefs got very lucky, and it wasn't their defense that did either of those things. You know, the replay overturn had nothing to do with great Chiefs defense that gave him a chance. But let's go to the positive. There were a couple of well-executed defensive plays. There were a couple of blitzes by Spagnuolo that did, on a day where they don't stop you, made a play here or there. Chris Jones was a force. He was hard to block. He was blowing things up. And in modern football, Danny, there's really no better place to blow up an offense than right up the middle. It's even more effective now than the outside pass rushers. It's because the quarterbacks get rid of the football so fast. So if you can get in a quarterback's face right now, it's probably the most effective rush there is, and Chris Jones did that. So that's something to look forward to, that Jones did a nice job. It looked like they made a couple of good plays, and the Chiefs look like a team that on any given play, not probable, but at least possible, that they spark, show up, everybody does the right thing. Tyrann Mathieu has the speed and ability and confidence. They don't look like a downtrodden team. They weren't beaten down by what was happening to them. They weren't physically in trouble. And Spags calls a few plays here or there. I think that's better than the last couple of years.
Okay.
In the last couple of years, when you watch the Titans, for instance, that's a good game to go back to. The Titans said, we're going to run in the second half, and what are you going to do about it? And the Chiefs just got more lethargic, and here we go again, 7 yards, 6 yards. You know, at least with the Chiefs, if it's 3rd and 2 or 4th and 1, when Detroit lined up, you thought there may be a chance that the Chiefs will come blasting across the line and stop them. Not like, oh, I know they're going to get in this time. So I do think that little bit of unpredictability, that there is some spark, does give us a better grade. For those that keep thinking it's going to turn around and the Chiefs are going to be a stellar defense anytime soon, I don't see it. The thing that's helping them be a stellar defense is Patrick Mahomes lighting it up in the offense early in the game, and then the offensive coordinators losing their head.
Right.
And I don't know about Patricia's staff, what he's got in Detroit, how good of coaches he has. I haven't been able to keep track yet. There's a lot to be seen. But they were very convicted, and the best I've seen, other than the Patriots, that was the most well-coached game to have a chance to beat the Chiefs of anybody I've seen by far.
Chiefs took a lot of shots down the field, and for once there weren't magic moments with them. Did you see anything out of Mahomes? Or to me, it looked like maybe Hardman and Demarcus Robinson sometimes aren't running the right, or at least where Mahomes thinks he's going. What did you see? Because they missed probably 6-7 throws that maybe usually they hit 2 or 3 more of those.
Again, and this is by Patrick Mahomes' grading style. The kid that gets 100 in every test, if they miss 2 and they only get a 98, right, you say, it's a B-minus performance right there, because that kid, he knows all the answers. So you got to be very careful about how you talk about this. But it looked to me as if Patrick threw the ball up with a little more air and a little more hope that the ball would drop in, rather than complete decisiveness on certain throws of this is, I've got this guy, stick it on his right shoulder, I want to hit the 7, not the 8, those kind of things, if that makes sense. Now, it's important to point out that when he does that, he does what all quarterbacks who are great do. If he is going to miss, he's going to miss long and incomplete. Right. Never where the defender is. Does that make sense? He gets such a high grade, but every once in a while he looks like he's a little off balance and puts more air underneath it. For instance, if I were to go back to my days of playing football with my friends, okay, if you're playing with your friends that are superstar athletes, I would throw the ball, just throw it, which means pretty hard. But if I saw a younger kid who's open, I might say I'm going to take a little bit off on the velocity, throw a little bit more air, and just hope it just kind of sticks with the kid and he doesn't get intimidated and smack him in the head or something. It looked to me that Patrick was doing a little bit of that. Now, that's not anything of a cut down like those kids out there, but it does tell you that he might be saying they may not be making the right cut. If I put a little bit more air, maybe they have more time to understand
Right.
it's a little bit to your left, pull away from the defender. He's throwing it to safe areas. When they drop, you don't
Right.
see defenders nearby going, oh, darn, I almost intercepted that. But you did see some incompletions just drop. And it seems to me that in the last couple of weeks, and especially against Detroit, there were a few throws that just had a little more air, maybe a little more tight, little less tight spiral, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And when he's striking it to, if the ball's going to Kelsey, you can see it leaving his hand, and you can just stop. Just hit pause on your TV because you can catch up with your DVR. Probably. Just hit pause, and you go, oh, that's a steamer. And you don't need to look. That's one of his reliable receivers.
Right.
So let's not make too much of this. It's just, I haven't studied all the tape and that kind of thing yet early in the week. But to me, that seems like maybe there is a little disconnect. Are the guys actually running their routes?
Right.
Let me try to give them a little chance to look at this one as opposed to ripping it. But again, that would be like a 99 instead of 100 for Patrick Mahomes.
Good analysis on quarterbacks, as always, from Stan Weber. We got some probably a little shakier grades coming up for the college game as Kansas and Kansas
Mizzou did
State.
not make one mistake that I saw, Danny.
No, they
last
didn't,
week.
and
not
they're not
one.
likely to make too many this week, and even if they do, we probably won't notice. So we'll talk some college football up next with Stan Weber on Danny and Stan's Football Weekend, presented by Park University.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code ClinkScale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. With Stan talking football, and Well, Saturday wasn't very good. Yeah, well, Missouri didn't make any mistakes, as you said. They had a nice day. I don't know what they did, but maybe they watched some football. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they, it's not warm weather.
Well, they celebrated
maybe
because South Carolina whipped Kentucky, and South Carolina, to me, did not look very good with the freshman quarterback. And if they're, what was the score, 24-7 or something? If Kentucky's that bad, you're looking at how could Missouri lose on the road? Let's start looking at some of those games that are tough on the road. Really? Is that real? Is South Carolina really that much better? I know every week is not the same, but, boy, what an indicator that is that Missouri's going to start rolling through some victories again like we thought. This week they're a big-time favorite over Troy, and Troy's played great football under their previous coaching staff, but Neil Brown and the boys are at West Virginia now, not at Troy. Some of the players have graduated, so they don't look as dangerous as the 10-win teams they've had. I know Missouri doesn't want to overlook them, but should be the start of a heck of a run for Mizzou that we thought would still be on pace. That Wyoming game we can forget about a little bit, other than you don't see a 0 in the loss column for the Tigers right now.
Well, you don't see a 0 in the loss column for Kansas State either, and maybe the game against Oklahoma State was in some ways more surprising than the Kansas game. Now Kansas got completely obliterated. We'll get to that in a minute, but K-State had been so solid. They'd been able to run the football. They played physical football. That's not the kind of thing that generally lends itself to you get completely manhandled. Now, if somebody didn't see the game and they look at the score, they're saying, what are you talking about? Well, Oklahoma State kicked 4 field goals. They were way ahead. K-State got a couple scores to make them feel good. 26-13, you can dream. And then they just went down, 23-13. Then they went down and pushed the ball down the field. And it was a physical mismatch. I mean, only the score was not. How surprising was it to you? And Chris Kleiman does what I think many good coaches do. You see this with Bill Self sometimes. You see it with Peter Vermees from Sporting Kansas City. They often reserve their worst comments for their team when they win and play well. And then when they really kind of step on their toes, they'll say, well, it wasn't so bad there, and, we'll just come back and push this one aside and move on. But first of all, surprising that K-State was handled so easily by Oklahoma State?
Yeah, the positives can be they didn't give up and kept fighting back the best they could. And secondly, they played good red zone defense. And they only got down in the red zone really one time on offense and went and got a touchdown. So that's an important part of football, but it's not enough to carry the day. I'm surprised that K-State was not effective on 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, and even getting down to 4th down when they would consider going for it there. They just couldn't make that 1 yard look simple, and that's really a core thing in Courtney Messingham's offense is that, I might not have done a great job on 1st or 2nd down, but watch me, 3rd and 1, 2 or 3, we'll slip something through here, get a 1st down, you won't remember it, and you get chugging. K-State never got that rhythm.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. K-State's players talked about the rhythm of offense. If you're not making 1st downs, you can't get any rhythm. The next time you come out there, you don't feel any rhythm. I guess they
didn't get their first down until after an hour and 12-minute rain delay midway through the second quarter. So it was about 8.5 minutes left in the second quarter before they got a 1st down. And they had opportunities. They had a 2nd and 1 one time. They had a 3rd and 1 and then got a penalty to make it 3rd and 6. These are little things that really hurt and cost K-State. So, that was a surprise. That on offense they didn't convert in that situation, and therefore there wasn't a lot of offense until after Oklahoma State had plenty of offense. And the good news for K-State might be we just need to play a lot more games to really understand all the things we have here with many of these Big 12 teams.
Right.
K-State also in there, obviously. But one of the things that you have to think about is Tylan Wallace as a wide receiver was just dominant. And K-State really wasn't out of position or doing anything dumb on defense. He was so good. And Sanders, the quarterback, probably maybe played a little bit better than you think, but not so much. I told you he might throw a couple interceptions over the middle, and in the end, he did.
Yeah.
He intercepted twice, so K-State got that. He did his thing running the ball some near 50 yards and throwing some nice passes, but it came down to Tylan Wallace was dominant in the first half, over 100 yards receiving, and K-State really didn't do anything wrong. And then Chuba Hubbard, he does not play like Barry Sanders. You can't project him to be special like Barry Sanders, but I don't know how you're going to stop him. I mean, 100 and some yards for him is a poor game.
Right.
He's played
he almost
5.
got 300.
Last year he came in as a freshman, as a backup, got thrown in when Justice Hill got injured, and he might have been 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 6 100-yard games already. So this is not a fluke. This year, He's played 5 games, 3 of them over 200 yards rushing. He ran for 296 yards against K-State, and they had a line that had changed 4 positions from the week before because their 2 tackles were hurt for Oklahoma State. They lost 2 tackles, and they did a shuffle that only the left guard stayed in the same position. A guy that's never started came in and had to, an ex-walk-on had to play center. Now, Charlie Dickey's a good offensive line coach. They knew all week, and these weren't a bunch of bad players, but still, to show you how good
talking
Chuba,
about studs,
when you're talking about Chuba Hubbard and what a difference he made to the offensive line, it's not as if the offensive line made mistakes, but really they just do simple things like everybody move right like we're a dance team or a band, and the defenders have to follow you. You all kind of run sideways. You've seen it, Danny.
Right.
You run sideways, and then the back decides when I'm going to cut it up. It's the Shanahan running back strategy that the Denver Broncos used. And then the runner's just got to be great at knowing when to plant his foot, when to turn up field. The guy has track-like speed. He was a real track star in Canada, and Chuba Hubbard has an uncanny ability to make the cut. Now, he's not physically weak, so he ran through some tackles, but it's not as if you sit there and look at all those, well, they don't wear jocks anymore, but, look at all those jocks on the field, an old announcer. Right. It wasn't like that. It is subtle.
He's a one-cut runner kind of.
He cuts once, and if it's 3rd and 3, for instance, there was a critical point near midfield, 3rd and 3, and if K-State could have stopped him, you still have some dreams of catching up. And guess what he turned into? Quick, decisive power runner. He didn't try to run for 30 yards. He's smart enough to go, all I need is 2, and he made 5. But he gave up the chance to make 10, 15, 20, 30 because he didn't let the play go. He said, there it is. I'm going to go, put his shoulder pads down, ran through some arms that weren't in a great position to make the tackle. So near the goal line, he did the same thing. He just has an uncanny ability to understand the game and a feel to when to make the cut, and he's not trying to make 80-yard runs when it's 3rd and 2. But if it's 1st and 10 at his own 10-yard line, he might go from 90 because by 10 yards into the play, he usually has found an angle to just make it a speed game. He's not wasting time juking people. Point is, he was too good. And going into last week, the thing I kept, recalculating in my mind, like, how does K-State win? And you start thinking, well, you can't really project him for like 175. K-State could hold him to 110. Why couldn't they? But I kept thinking, how are they going to hold him to 110? Well, let's get back to if they hold him to 110, I think Skylar Thompson can make some plays. Sanders can make a couple. You just keep thinking about it. But when the game unfolded, I go, unfortunately, this is what I kept running through my mind, that he is such a hard matchup. So he goes for 296. He's the third by a back. Only the 3rd Oklahoma State running back ever to go over 295. Guess what? Barry Sanders has done the 300 like 4 or 5 times, but only one other guy has done it, and it's not Thurman Thomas.
Right.
So he's putting numbers up that by the end of the year, he's in the Heisman talk.
Yeah.
If OSU can win some games, because his numbers are going to look Barry Sanders-like, and he doesn't take big hits. I don't know who I would compare him to, but he was too good. He was too good. That decided the game right there. K-State didn't do things on offense. They should have done better to keep him off the field, but Chuba Hubbard was too good, and Tylan Wallace was too good. So those 2 players are in their 3rd year. I think they'll both go pro. K-State won't have to play them again the rest of the year. But unless you're Texas or someone like that can really physically stuff the whole line and cause him some havoc, I don't know who's going to stop him. And, by the way, Texas gave up like 120. He got 120 against Texas. That's one of his bad games.
Right.
So I'm not going to downgrade K-State too much just because those 2 superstars went and won the game, almost like basketball.
Right. Real quickly before we get to Kansas, and they probably wish we wouldn't get to them, but how important next game, Skylar Thompson, he'd been so seamless, so good. He wasn't very good in the game. Defense obviously has something to do with that. Also, there were some comments after the game that he got so tired, gassed, I think there was a reference by Chris Kleiman, that they decided maybe not to go for a 4th and 1 or something because he was out of gas. That sounds so weird for a quarterback. And is that mental? I guess I'm balling it up into one question of up next needs to be something good, or he can probably, confidence is so important to anyone, and he was rolling.
Yes, he had advanced his game tremendously. And, I often talk about this, Danny. I've got a couple of young grandchildren, so I don't know if this will register with a lot of people. But if you see steps, just a stairway up to your 2nd level, and you watch and you're kind of monitoring how safe is it for that youngster, whatever age they are, to go up the steps by themselves. So you're standing back there ready to spot, and you see the kid kind of crawl over the step, and you go, oh, that's good. That's good. But if you think about it, Danny, they are not done. They could still fall backwards and hurt themselves badly. They have to scoot up close to the next step before you go, now we're ready. It's almost like the securitization of the step. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That when you take a step like Skylar Thompson did, you've got to put together more than 1 week, more than 2 weeks. You've got to solidify that there is no step back. Wherever Skylar Thompson was as a sophomore, we're not trying to downgrade him. We're talking about how good it is that you advance. So when you see a game like this, you've just said, well, maybe you're the baby who hasn't securitized that slot yet. Are you really going to play at that level? You and I had a chance to interview Chris Kleiman on College Football Game Day.
Right.
And I asked him the question, how does he compare to the NFL guys you had? Easton Stick was a quarterback at North Dakota State last year. He's in the pros right now. And then obviously Carson Wentz is a big-time pro. I actually asked about Skylar Thompson, a junior, to Coach Kleiman. Are you seeing some of the same things? Now just think about that. Just with no embarrassment, I'm saying, whoa, do we have an NFL quarterback? So I do think it's important to step back. And K-State's in a weird schedule where there's more pressure to win right now. They had a Mississippi State win and a week off. Oklahoma State, whatever reason, didn't turn out the way you'd want it to. Now you come back home and you play against a team that's undefeated in Baylor and did a great job of beating Iowa State. And you know what comes after that, Danny? Week off. Whoa, this is not how football teams roll. You get into that rhythm. K-State's totally out of rhythm. If they lose this game and have to sit out another week,
they're going to have been a month
yeah,
since
you haven't watched that many games, but come on.
Right.
So there's a lot of pressure on K-State to play well. And Skylar does need to really settle in and be great because K-State's counting on him. It's not an option for him to just be good. They don't need him to just be a quarterback that's better than last year's version. They need that giant step for K-State to play. Remember, K-State was picked 9th to start the year. They were ranked 22nd last week. There's a wide range in there, and Skylar can take you to all the levels of, hey, yeah, we're not a 9th-place team, but then you could be a 6th-place team. That still is nowhere near 22nd in the nation. So Skylar Thompson has to be great. I thought one of the things that you revert to when you do have struggles, you go back to some of your same mistakes. I talked to you about this on College Game Day the other day, like your golf swing. When you start messing up,
right.
It's probably that same pattern you run into once in a while that you need to really concentrate on. Skylar, when he rolled out a couple of times, didn't see the receiver who was open, didn't pull the trigger, and turned into a runner. And there's nothing wrong with that, but to go to the next level, what he did so well early in the season is act like he's Joe Montana. When Joe Montana started rolling out, you never thought, oh, he's going to run for a first down. You're just going, someone's going to come open. Might only be 5 yards down the field, but he's going to kick the ball to somebody, and they're going to be on the run. And Skylar didn't do that as well early in his career. I mean, that's the one thing I didn't think he felt comfortable with. When he left the pocket and rolled out to the side, he became a runner. And, Danny, with those guys chasing you, let me tell you, a lot of times your concentration does change. You're sprinting. Right. Okay, think about running fast, and they're coming after you, and you do look at them. But if you can keep your concentration downfield, it's a bonus. And I thought he didn't do that quite as well. So Skylar's got to be great this week for K-State to win a giant game. K-State comes back home. Hey, if they win that game, and I would have told you before the year, how about a 3-game stretch at Mississippi State, at Oklahoma State, and an undefeated Baylor team that just beat Iowa State? How about if you won 2 out of those 3?
Right.
Will you take that?
Yeah.
And every K-State fan would be on, yeah, mark me down for that one. That opportunity's there. This is going to be another one of those games, just like Baylor versus Iowa State. Close, should be right down to the end.
Well, Kansas is in a bad situation, to say the least. And, they had such a great day at Boston College, and then they played representative football against West Virginia, although they didn't win. And then they just got slaughtered. I mean, this is like as bad as any of the bad games that they've had over the last 8-9 years. It, completely lopsided, 38-0. Nobody really thinks that much of TCU right now because they just lost to SMU, which probably didn't do Kansas any favors. And then on the back end of it, they got Oklahoma coming down. There's going to be no improvement. I mean, they're not going to be able to do anything that makes you feel good. First of all, one of the big points that many people who cover Kansas closely were making is that part of the thing that caused the improvement of their team was the increased use of RPOs, and that they sort of reverted back to power eye football in the game against TCU, and it was a disaster. It seems like maybe they're a little bit of two minds, that they really want to play power eye football, and they okay, the other thing worked, but it was sort of a gimmick. Let's get back to what we really do.
It puts you in a quandary, even when you're Les Miles, because you got two paths that you're running. There's the old coaching cliche that we're going to do what our players allow us to do, and we're going to focus and make them the best they can be. Well, that sounds really great, and it works to a level, but it doesn't help your long-term goal where Les Miles needs to say, and he says it with even more force, we're going to play Les Miles football. You want to know how Kansas is going to be good? Go watch Oklahoma State, 15 years ago when I was the coach there or whenever it was. So how do you work with both masters? How do you do what's best for Kansas today to give them a chance to have an upset here or there, gain some confidence? And when do you start implementing, we may lose a game here, but we're going to build a strong house, and the foundation has got to be good? And that is a very hard answer. That's why it's hard to dig out of the hole.
Right.
Charlie Weiss, you can make fun of him, but he's not an idiot. He's not a likable guy, but, he's not an idiot. But at some point, you just get pulled in different directions, and then things fall through the cracks, and then everybody loses their confidence because, Coach, you said we're going to do this, and then you said, no, we're going to do this, and they've been going back and forth a little bit. I mean, they don't want to tell us they're going back and forth at all. They want to say, this is all in our plan. We're just pulling from the playbook a little bit differently this week than last because, we're going to take what the defense gives us and all that kind of stuff. The fact is when Kansas tightens up their formation and plays in a way that says, let's don't turn over the football, let's don't put Carter Stanley in a bad situation where if he's going to throw, it's going to be off-play action, and the receivers are breaking out away because they're all tight, right? They're basically breaking away from the players toward the sidelines so you throw the ball out of bounds or complete. Usually it's easier to see who the one or two receivers are going to be. It's okay to only send out two guys when you're in a running formation, okay? And you want to power the football at them, get a physical attitude, use your good running backs, and control the ball. Well, but every time they do that, the opponents are better at squeezing down than the Kansas blockers are.
Right.
They aren't that dominant, and the running backs Puka needs room.
Right.
He just give me some green grass and let me go spin around in circles. I mean, it's Gale Sayers type of moves.
Right.
He runs backwards sometimes and turns around and gets more yardage than running straight through the hole. So, to me, Kansas has to spread things out and give Puka room. And like I said, I've been a Khalil Herbert fan club
that's the next
leader
topic,
about you give him room and he makes great decisions, a little bit like Chuba Hubbard. He just makes great decisive decisions and makes it look easy. Like, I'm not that good. I'm not as exciting as Puka. Look him. He spins and turns and does all I did is just ran off left tackle and I'm 25 yards downfield against Boston College. So it's a quandary. How much do they need to stick to Les Miles football and not worry about winning this year? And how much do they need to divert and spread things out? Then Carter Stanley's got four wide, and he may make a mistake because, Danny, when there are a lot of receivers and everything's all spread out, I know it made it a lot harder for me as a quarterback. When you don't have that Patrick Mahomes laser brain vision or whatever to go, oh, that's easy. Like, there's a lot. When you look at a football field, when you're a good quarterback, you say, look at all that green grass out there. When you're a bad quarterback, you're like, look at all those defenders, man. They're everywhere. And the more you spread them out, the more they seem. Right. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So do you put Carter Stanley at risk and give the other guys the ball? It's a tough time. And to keep those players' confidence is really hard to do. The only way you do it is winning. And that's why I point out losing to West Virginia when you were outgaining them like you were at home with every chance to win that game, it may come back to be a bigger burden on where this team ends up this year.
The other aspect was Khalil Herbert. That players really only found out right before the game. There was sort of a narrative there that maybe that it killed their confidence for the game, that it was a blow to them. He's a team leader, et cetera. This is what players are doing now. He's looking at the landscape. Puka's there. I'm not getting the majority of the carries. I'm a young player. I can play these 4 games, put this on tape, go to some other program and be the guy. It doesn't seem right to me. A lot of people think this is exactly what's right. This student athlete has the opportunity to better himself, to better his future. But then there's the aspect of team building and teammates and everything else. It's complicated. You can understand from a selfish standpoint why he might look at that option. But first of all, and you can deal with that, but first of all, how impactful can it be on a team on game eve to find out something like that?
It could be impactful, but it's not anywhere to talk about what TCU did. TCU tore them apart because TCU was mad about SMU losing, and they're at home, and they're a great defense. When they play their best, go look at the Purdue tape. Before you bash Kansas too much, go look at the Purdue tape when TCU was on the road, and they could do nothing. And TCU ran the ball well. TCU is a Jekyll and Hyde right now, about offensively and defensively. They've not figured it all out, but their best is as good as anybody, even Oklahoma, and their worst is middle-of-the-road conference. And I don't know which version each team's going to get, but Kansas got the mad, focused version, and they were ahead so easily, 38-0.
Right.
They could have won 80-0. It's a miracle that they didn't score more than they did. It's just totally taking their foot off the gas pedal. Then you go to the effect on the team. I think that Puka Williams and Khalil Herbert give Kansas the spark, those two combined, because one can be hot or the other. Khalil Herbert may not be an A-plus back. I think he is. He might only be a B-plus, but as a backup, as a Scottie Pippen, are you the Michael Jordan? Well, I don't know if I'm Michael Jordan, but I'm the greatest Scottie Pippen around. That's what
Right.
Scottie Pippen can say. And that's what he was. Puka scared the heck out of every team. They spent all week knowing exactly where he was, catching the passes, draw plays, everything has stopped Puka. And when he trotted off the field, they took their guard down a little bit, and here comes Khalil. So to me, it's a giant blow to Kansas. I don't know about emotionally. I don't know about leadership. Yes, you take units of talent away from a football team that's not super talented. That can hurt. But I think the ability for the danger factor, which people around here probably heard me say enough, and it all started when I was talking to you. How dangerous is Kansas on any given Saturday? I think they're a lot less dangerous with Khalil Herbert, because we talked about does exhaustion come in? Do those kind of things affect you? At some point, Puka Williams can't be out there every play, and the other team can't take a break and go, since Puka's off the field, he has to rest for 3 plays. Kansas is going to punt. These 3 plays, they're not going to get anywhere. It can't be only Puka. I thought they had a nice 1-2 punch, and that would allow the other players who aren't awful to gain some confidence. But my thoughts about what Kansas can do on any given Saturday are tremendously different if Khalil Herbert's not available.
Stan, always a pleasure talking football with you, and we do it a couple times a week in different genres, but always glad to do it, always fun.
Chiefs still undefeated.
We may be saying that for a long time.
Yeah, they're good. They're good on offense. They're scary on defense, and it's a joy to watch them. I mean, the other teams, I love watching the NFL, but I know people around the country, if they're wanting to watch a general game, I know they're turning their TVs on if they can to the Chiefs game going, no matter what, this is fun. I mean, an off day from Patrick Mahomes is over 300 yards, no interceptions, critical fourth quarter drive, 4th down conversion. He ran the ball well. And then how about Travis Kelce catching a ball and pitching it Mahomes-like? I mean, the Chiefs are awesome. Let's enjoy it, but my brain is just so advanced. I saw something today. 2 weeks ago, I said they've won the division. Now even ESPN's quoting 97% chance the Chiefs win the division. I say they've got the bye. Okay? So now it's only first seed, second seed, and who you're going to play. And, man, the New England Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs are good and resourceful. And what a war. Too bad we can't make an exception to the rules and just call it the Super Bowl. Just advance them to the Super Bowl. How big would the ratings be, Tom Brady against Patrick Mahomes in Miami for the Super Bowl? Out of favor of Lamar Hunt. We ought to just do it. So just to honor Lamar Hunt. Let him advance to the Super Bowl.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.